Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Stanley with Standley Handcrafted, and today we're going to be doing another wax review. Now this one is coming right after the 6006, which I just did a little while ago, and I wanted to jump right in and kind of keep this going, and I wanted to talk about the Soy 464, especially after I just did the video a couple days ago, or actually it's been a week. Is Soy 464 really worth it? And I said that I would do a full review, and I wanted to go in and do that kind of while the topic was really hot. So basically we're just going to jump right into it. I've been using the Soy 464 for kind of on and off for a couple years now. I definitely have some good experience with it and definitely a lot of thoughts about it. And I've got the sheet pulled up right here. We're just going to go ahead and go through it. It is Golden Wax 464. It is 50-pound case is $63.43. So the cost on the wax for the soy wax is a lot cheaper than some of the other waxes. It's got a max fragrance load. It says on the website 10%, but a lot of websites will say that it holds 12%, which is 2 ounces per 1 pound, which is actually quite a bit. It's right up there with 4627, which can also hold 2 ounces per pound. It's got a melt point of 113 to 119, so it's definitely in the lower melt point range as far as waxes are concerned. And 464 is definitely made more for containers rather than like clamshells, tarts, or anything like that. Although it can be used for that, it's definitely made for containers. Now, jumping right into this wax, I've talked about soy a lot, especially just a couple days ago when I did the video about is soy worth it? And a lot of that stuff I'm going to be talking about in the video today because there are a lot of pros and cons when it comes to Soy 464. Now, if you didn't watch the other video, I mentioned that Soy 464 is probably one of the most widely used waxes. It's very popular. Any beginner candle maker that jumps in and wants to start making candles, soy is exactly what they go to. Or soy is typically what most people will go for. That's what you hear when you go to any store and you start getting into some of the groups. A lot of people recommend soy, and when you start looking at soy, 464 always ends up at the top of that recommendation list. So jumping right into the soy, it's a real nice wax. It's easy to work with. It comes in a flake form. So as far as working with soy and weighing it out, getting it out of the bag and everything like that, there's no easier wax to work with than 464. Coming in the flake form that it does, you just can't beat that. If you have basically anything, a cup or a measuring cup, any type of scoop, you can pull it out with anything. And then of course the look of soy is actually really nice. It's towards the brighter end of a lot of waxes. It's not as bright white as Joy Wax, but it is up near the top of that. It's got a little bit of a yellowish tint to it. Not as much as 6006, but it's definitely whiter than that. It can come across very nice, creamy, smooth. And when it dries perfectly across the top, you usually get very nice, smooth, kind of almost like a matte finish looking top. It's not real glossy or greasy like some of the other ones. Soy, when it smooths out, is really nice. It's smooth. It's got like a soft finish to it. And then of course you can get some tops that will get a little bit frosted, a little bit of craters, but for the most part, when soy works well, it's nice and smooth. It's got an incredibly nice top. And then jumping right over into some of the pitfalls with soy, talking about the tops, you can also get some tops that look really frosted depending on the fragrance oil that you use. You can get frosting across the top. So if you're looking at the top of the candle, it looks like there's a powdery substance all the way across the top of it. And it's not a bad thing. It's appearance-wise, it doesn't look that great. Not a lot of people really care about that though. You'll get some people that will ask about it, and then once you explain to them that it's just the frosting from the candle and the oil and everything like that, everybody is pretty much fine with it. You don't get any sinkholes with 464 like you do with 6006, but you do get some cratering or some little pockets at the top, and that's basically, I've noticed with some florals, definitely some of the spice scents like cinnamon or any of the real heavy scents like banana nut bread, you'll get like little craters across the top, and that's basically the oil and the wax kind of settling just a little bit. It's not really anything that you can fix with the heat gun because as soon as you kind of melt it back in, it just kind of falls in again. So that's another one that you kind of have to just live with if you do get an oil or a top that does that because of the oil. Now, one of the good things with soy is the fact that it does hold so much oil so that you can put quite a bit in there. It holds 2 ounces per pound. I personally don't use 2 ounces per pound. I usually go back a little bit, probably 1.4 to 1.5 ounces per pound. I find that works just as well, especially when you're trying to get a hot throw from it. Sometimes when you add too much oil, you can kind of drown out the candle and drown out the wick, and because you've added that much oil, you're actually working against yourself and you're not getting a hot throw. And not getting a hot throw is probably one of the biggest downfalls I can say with 464. When you're working with soy, like I said, the flake form, there's nothing better. When you get a good pour, a good candle, a nice smooth top, you get a good hot throw from a properly wicked candle. Soy is up there near the top with some very good candles. It's not gonna get the hot throw that like a 4627 or even a 6006 is, although you can get close to a 6006 sometimes, but that's more of like a poorly made 6006 and a really well-made 464. You're coming close to that gap right there. 464 can get a very nice hot throw, but of course obtaining that hot throw is where you're gonna get some of the cons when dealing with 464. 464 is notoriously bad for getting a hot throw. It's, I've mentioned it before in previous videos that it's not a wax that I recommend to beginners just because there is so much trouble in getting a hot throw. A lot of people will jump into this. There's a lot of people in the DIY Facebook group that are talking about it right now. They've been working with 464 for several months, some of them for a year, and they finally just gave up. And it's because basically getting a good hot throw isn't always easy with 464. You can heat the wax up to the proper temperature, 180. You can add your oils at 180 to 170 and try multiple different wicks, and you may not get a hot throw from it. So it can be a very frustrating wax to work with. So there are definitely some inconsistencies when it comes to getting a hot throw, not getting a hot throw. When you get a hot throw, the candle can be extremely good. And one of the other good things about the Soy 464 is the fact that you can pour it low enough to where you can get some really nice glass adhesion. It's not like the 6006 or some of the harder paraffins that shrink a lot. Most soy is a non-shrinking wax, so that means if you pour it at 170 or if you pour it at 130, you're still gonna get pretty good glass adhesion. And if you don't know what glass adhesion is, let's see if I can put it up there right there. The wax is touching the glass right here and it's not touching the glass right there. I think, yeah, you can kind of see it right there. So good glass adhesion. It's not something that a lot of seasoned candle makers really go for. It's definitely a beginner's problem. Somebody who doesn't make candles a lot, they jump into this and they think that they've done something wrong. And you're not doing anything wrong, it's just something that normally happens. Waxes contract and expand when it's hot and cold. So even if you get a candle that has perfect adhesion, you can ship this during the winter months and it can cool down and pop away from the glass. So glass adhesion, although it looks nice, it's definitely not something that I would tell you to spend too much time in perfecting, but you will have better luck with 464 than you will with some of the other waxes. So that's definitely a plus when it comes to the soy. Now, like I mentioned with shipping, that's another one that you definitely have to be concerned with. Any wax is gonna be good during the winter months, the colder months. And a lot of waxes just don't hold up for shipping when it comes to the hotter months. So if you're shipping soy, like I mentioned in the 6006 video, if you're shipping during the hot months, July, like in the middle of the summer, 100+ degrees, you will get some melting every once in a while. Now you can definitely do things to prevent that, but soy with one of the lower melt points, as soon as you start hitting the hot months, I definitely know candle makers who stop selling soy for a good 3 months in the summertime just because they don't want to deal with those issues. Now I've only had it happen once or twice and I replaced the candles, but they basically showed up and they must have been shipped, I mean, kind of like this, because the candle came in, when they opened it up, it was melted a little bit like that at an angle. So that is definitely, I wouldn't say it's a huge con, but it's definitely something that you need to think about. And that's gonna be with a lot of different waxes. So I can't really knock it too much for that one. So I'm going through my list again here and I'm going through the ease of use. There is no easier wax to use than Soy 464. The flakes make it better than anything that's out there. The cost of the wax is actually really good. It's definitely up towards the higher end of the rating scale. The fragrance load is 2 ounces. You can't really beat that. Pouring in sinkholes does extremely well. The burn time and cleanliness of the burn of the candle is actually really good. Soy, another pro with it is definitely the burn time. It's going to burn a lot longer than some of the paraffins. Paraffins burn or tend to burn a lot quicker than most candles or candle waxes, whereas soy is definitely up towards the higher end of that. The cold throw also is another one that's really good in the soy. I haven't had any issues taking it to market and people popping off the lids. They smell really well. The hot throw is where you get into trouble. This is one that drives me crazy with soy, and it really puts me at 2 ends of the spectrum when it comes to rating soy, because when you get soy, like when you're working with soy and you get everything, you nail the tops, you nail the glass adhesion, you get a good hot throw from it, I would definitely rate it. But then on the other side of that, you can get all kinds of problems. You can get an inconsistent batch. You can get barely a cold throw. The tops are cratered to hell. No matter what wick you put in it, it doesn't seem to work. It doesn't get a hot throw, and you get frosting all the way across the top, which instantly pulls me down, and I want to rate it. So it really goes all over the place. And one of the things I just mentioned there was the batch consistency. Now this is probably one of the biggest ones and one of the only waxes that you really have to be concerned with this, and that's batch consistency. Like I mentioned in the 6006 video, if you haven't seen that one, I've been working with that one for 3 or 4 years now, and I've never had a bad case come in. It's worked every single time, whereas with the soy, there are definitely bad cases. And it doesn't happen too often, but you can work with soy. I think it happened probably within the last year. There was a good 3-month period where some of the candle websites were putting notifications on their site that said and let people know that they were having issues with current batches of 464. And that's definitely something that you need to be concerned with. So soy is your go-to wax and you're making candles. You could easily run into a situation where you can't get good batches for like a good month or 2. The last thing I wanted to mention with this one is, and I should have mentioned it earlier, soy, like I said, is a container wax, but a lot of people will use it for melts and tarts. Now, it definitely works in clamshells. It's a little bit soft, and you can break it apart a little bit, but if you're using like a bigger mold or the 2-ounce shot cups, soy works incredibly well. It's not meant for melts, but it definitely works as melts. And that's where the high fragrance load comes in really handy, is with melts, clamshells, tarts, is you can add a lot of fragrance to those to the wax and then put it inside the shot cups. Like this right here, these work extremely well. They're 2 ounces. They hold color extremely well, as you can see right there. And it's a good solid wax. I mean, if you push on that, I mean, you can push it in a little bit, but when you're just putting that inside of a burner, it's really not gonna matter. The only thing it's not gonna do is if you're putting it into molds where you're getting shapes. You're gonna run into a few more issues when you do that. If you've got any shapes like, I don't know, like a dog or a cat, or Halloween's coming up, so you're looking at pumpkins, you could get the stem, and because of this, it's a softer wax, it'll break off pretty easy. But if you're using the 464 in shot cups like this, it works extremely well. You're not concerned with shape. You just pop them right out there and throw them right in a melter. So having said all that, it comes down to the review on soy. And like I said, I've been using soy for a couple years now. I've gone through the ups, I've gone through the downs. And as much as I love soy when it works, I absolutely hate soy for all the times that it doesn't work. And this is where it's kind of hard to review this one and give it a fair review score. Because like I said, when it works extremely well. It's easy to use, it's got a real nice hot throw, but on the other side of that, you do run into several issues and you can get a candle and an entire batch that just doesn't work at all. Which ultimately, as much as I hate to do it, brings me to the review, and I would definitely rate it. So I hope that makes sense. I hope I justified my score. If you disagree with my score, and I know some people are going to, because there are people that love soy and there are a lot of people that don't have as many issues with it. So if you disagree with that score, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you're having trouble with it, if you're not having trouble with it, there's a good discussion also in the DIY Facebook group. So if you're not a member over there, go ahead and join up and jump into any one of the conversations that are going on, say hi. And of course, you can follow me on any of the social media platforms that I've got listed in the video description down below. Instagram, Facebook, the website, the email. If you want to get in touch with me, please do so. I get a lot of questions, so please feel free to send me any questions reviews through any of the sites or the platforms down below. And again, if you've got a wax that you'd like to see reviewed or you'd like to hear more thoughts on it, please let me know in the comments down below. I've got another 3 or 4 here that I'm gonna review, and there's a lot of waxes that are still out there that I haven't even gotten to use yet, so I would love to hear some thoughts on what I should review. And of course, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and thank you for watching.